What's up? I'm Skilla, and this is Nerd Stuff with Skilla. Today we're going to be talking about the second episode of American Horror Story Cult, entitled Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. There will be spoilers ahead for episode 2 and 1, so if you haven't watched them yet and you care about getting spoiled on it, please go to a different thing to watch. Go watch a different video. This episode picks up right where the last episode left off, with Allie waking up to find a clown in her bed. She freaks out, and then she goes and finds Ivy, and they clear the house with Ivy as her bodyguard, basically. And when they realize that there aren't any clowns in the house, basically Allie questions her sanity again, and Ivy is not sure how much more of this that she can take. Okay, so next, Ozzy has a dream that clowns come into his room, they break his nightlight, and they basically start terrorizing him. They flip his bed over. Seems like this is probably actually a dream based on the fact that when he starts screaming for his mom, they come upstairs and they find him on top of his bed like he had just thrown the covers off and his glasses were off and everything. So I think that was actually just a dream. Twisty was one of the clowns that he saw, which leads me to believe that it was also a dream, because we've pretty much been given the information that Twisty is gone, like he's just a character in a comic book at this point. Next, we see a reporter talking about the aftermath of Kai getting his ass kicked by the migrant workers, and the newscast portrays him as an innocent man badly beaten. And we meet the Wiltons, that is Harrison and Meadow Wilton, who are played by Billy Eicher and Leslie Grossman, that they are in a marriage of convenience. Harrison is gay, and Meadow has a fear of the sun, heliophobia, I think is what it's called, because she's had skin cancer, she's had melanomas, and she doesn't want to be in the sun for more than 10 minutes at a time, she says, which seems kind of crazy to me. We also see them loading a bunch of barrels into their house early on in the episode, which looks quite suspect to me. Later on in the episode, Winter has left Oz over at their house and come back to go get a jacket for him. And then Allie and Ivy rush out and they realize that he's just in the backyard looking at their bee colony. And he pulls out a big old thing of honeycomb, and Allie about has an episode because it's full of holes and she doesn't like things that are full of holes. My guess at this point is that Harrison is probably already on board with the cult, and Meadow probably isn't, just based on what we see in the trailer for next week's episode. We discover that the Wiltons have moved into the house across the street from Allie and Ivy, which is where the Changs live. Mr. and Mr. Chang, who, yes, were brutally murdered last episode. And the Wiltons know about the murder, and they say that they wanted to buy the house because they knew it was going to be dirt cheap, and that they don't scare very easily. And this, really is upsetting for Allie. She is not down with these people at all. She thinks they're creepy. She's not with it. And I think that I agree with her, because there was still a gigantic puddle of blood in their floor and the spray-painted clown smiley face on the door. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine. During all this, we see a scene in the kitchen of the Butchery on 5th, where a shift leader named Roger and a guy who works in the kitchen as well, who's doing prep work, named Pedro, get into a confrontation that's racially motivated. Roger provoked Pedro, and then Pedro threatened him back, and they were just at each other's throats. Allie diffused the situation, and things move on. To me, it seemed like the Wiltons were kind of giving away as much information as possible, either to make Allie and Ivy trust them, or maybe they just are new to trying to convince people of their identity, maybe they're just that kind of people. But it really seemed kind of off to me how much they were willing to tell somebody who they had just met. I'm not really sure what's up with that. Maybe they just needed to get a whole bunch of exposition out as quickly as possible. I don't know. Later on, Oz is scared to go to sleep in his own room, so he goes to sleep with Allie and Ivy, and then they get an alert saying that the alarm system at their restaurant has went off. Ivy's gonna go, but then Ozzy's like, no, I'm scared, so Allie decides to go. Allie leaves in the middle of the night to go and check on the restaurant. When she gets there, it doesn't look like there's a break-in or anything, but she does hear some noises coming from the cutting room, so she goes in there only to discover that Roger is hanging from a hook, like one of the pigs that are hanging from hooks around him. And she tries to help him down, but in doing so basically impales him further on the hook. And she feels really bad about this because she basically killed that dude, even though it wasn't her fault. Her hand is what did push him into the position to end his life. Later on, we are back at their house, and Allie is having bars installed on all of the doors and windows of the house. And then Ivy sneak attacks her with a surprise psychiatrist appointment. The psychiatrist shows up, and he and Allie start talking about all the things that have happened, and she discloses to him that she has obtained a gun from Harrison Wilton, and that Ivy can't know about it. He will violate doctor-patient confidentiality if he exposes that secret to Ivy. Allie also says that she feels vindicated in all of her phobias because so far they've been pretty on point. Like, every time she starts feeling a fear, something bad happens in association with that fear. Her doctor says that he's worried that she may be exhibiting early signs of agoraphobia, which is the fear of leaving your house. Then Allie is visited at the house while she's there alone by Kai, who's trying to sell her on him running for the local council, and she's like, no, you threw a latte on me, and you've said some things that make me think that you're not cool with my living situation. But Kai starts off by trying to play the good guy a little bit, but then quickly moves on to creepily trying to get her to let him inside of her house, and she's not having it at all. He slams on her barricade wall. He calls her out when she says that she'd rather be the kind of person who builds a bridge rather than builds a wall. And he's like, well, looks like you're building some pretty good walls around your house right now, doesn't it? Which, good point. Winter tries to help Allie unwind by drawing her a bath and getting her some wine, and then touching her vajayjay. It's really weird. At first it seems like maybe Winter doesn't have the worst of intentions, but then she starts kind of being pretty forward, touching on Allie's body while she's naked in this bathtub. And she says that she'll keep her secret about her not taking her medicine. And while all of this creepiness is going on with Winter kind of hitting on Allie, all of the lights go off. And we find out that not just the lights in their house or the neighborhood or the city are out, but all of the lights are out in 8 states. And they don't know why at this point. Winter leaves against Allie's pleading. Allie calls Ivy, begging her to come home until her phone dies. Then Ivy sends Pedro to their house with a box full of supplies. In the meantime, Allie sees the ice cream truck pull up across the street. Now, we all know what that ice cream truck has inside, and Allie does too. And so does Oz. Oz doesn't see it, but it's important. There's that ice cream truck filled with murderous clowns that just murdered our neighbors a week ago, or whatever, however long the difference between the episodes is. We haven't really been given any good clues on that. She starts freaking out. Something creepy happens. She's going around her house, and then she goes to her hallway bathroom, and as the door closes on its own, and as she goes to open it, a weird vocal sound happens. Now, this could be an auditory hallucination, maybe caused by the stress, or it could have been one of the clown people walking back behind her. I went back and watched it 7 times, 2 of those in absolute slowest frame-by-frame motion possible, and there was nothing visual that I could see there. It was just a quick change accompanied by an inaudible word said. She goes to check her breaker box, or a box full of wires that has something to do with the electricity in their house, and it's all cut off. All of the wires have been cut. She turns around, there's a whole face clown. Then she screams and runs out, and then there's the lady clown with the little baby hands on her head, and then she knocks that hoe down the stairs. She goes up, she gets Oz and her gun, and they start booking it out of there. They get to the door, and there's a man standing there, and she just puts a hole right through his head. She shoots the dude, and it turns out to be Pedro there with the supplies. That is the end of the episode. My thoughts are, definitely some of the people we've met already are involved in the cult already. I feel pretty sold that Harrison is involved with the cult, just based on the fact that in the next episode we know that Meadow is going to become involved with the cult. She definitely has a little pinky promise session with her boy Kai, and I think that will be our introduction into how the cult is formed, unless it's really quietly done like we did with Winter in the first episode. I think it's very likely that her doctor is part of the bad guy team. The cop who they're interacting with, I'm pretty sure, is on the cult side of things. And I think it's even a possibility that Ivy is too. Again, there's still a question of who Oz's father is. Maybe that has something to do with Ivy and Kai's relationship, I don't know. There's a lot of questions at this point. We're only 2 episodes in, so it's kind of hard to say what is for sure and what is for not sure, for lack of better words. But yeah, for me, I think Harrison for sure. I think the police officer for sure, and I think that her psychiatrist probably is a bad guy too. He just has some creepiness to him, some shadiness to him, I would say. We'll see how things go next week. I'm really interested in what goes on next. This episode is a lot less political, even though there was still a lot of commentary on like heterosexual people versus homosexual people. There's still a lot of the plotline revolving around an anti-immigrant position and the confrontation between the two different types of people who are pro and people who are anti-Trump, basically. Harrison is definitely a log cabin Republican. You don't run into him a lot, but they're around. And he collects guns, you know. He definitely said some things when they were outside that leads me to believe that he's probably a log cabin Republican. So he'll be susceptible to Kai's vision. And I can't wait to see what happens next week. Drop a comment down below if you have any theories on what's going on in this season of American Horror Story. Give us a like if you enjoyed hearing me talk about it. And go on and subscribe if you want to hear a bunch more nerdy stuff from me. Thank you for watching.